Alright, everybody. It's time for a notorious map. Garden Party. We all hate that maze, I know. Up until this point, with a field of a farther fields or whatever the hell, and then Blazing Trail and Cabins by the Lake, those are incredibly open maps. It's all about just getting from one good holdout position to the next and just being smart about your positioning and dealing with the horde in an efficient way, and then just moving and kiting
This has been a hoot.
and etc.
Time we pushed on.
Right? Like, that's how those three maps sort of played out. This map is all of a sudden a little different. This map is going to feel more like Blood Tunnel or Resurgence, right? Pipe Cleaners. It's you know, decently open, but for the most part, it's way more tight and confined than what we've been playing up until this point. And I actually love this area here, the sort of baby greenhouses that we'll be moving into. I would say, and I know it's going to sound crazy for me to hear it from me, loot. This is a great area to loot. It's a great area to loot.
This way, sniper rifle.
Loot it all. Just because just about all of these greenhouses have 2 to 3-ish entrances, and there's really relatively tight corners. So, if a horde were to trigger, literally at any, and you can run into almost any of these greenhouses, and just two pick a door, and that's it. And you can do that literally for all these greenhouses. Some of them have 3 entrances. Not super ideal, but most of the time, zombies are maybe only coming out of 1 or 2 of them anyways. And there's just a lot of opportunity for loot here. Crates. Med cabinet can spawn right there, as you can tell. Another med cabinet can spawn right here. And so this is just a great area to loot. You can even go 2 on each side and loot it really, really fast if you want to keep up that pacing. Because it's so convenient, everything's on the way. I mean, even if you weren't going to loot everything, you should pick left or right and loot what you run through. Because, you know, you are just looting all of it for the most part, or running by at least half of it. Alright, do some zigzagging, we're good, we're golden, and etc.
You ready? Let's kick ass.
I don't think there's too much difference here between the staircases, but you just move through this area as you would normally. You can crouch.
Time to get busy.
You can crouch by these birds. In fact, I don't even think you need to crouch, but they're pretty close. And here, it's just all about getting up top. Up top is a great place to hold. Ooh. Let's just get up top as quickly as we can. Beware the sleepers at the top of these staircases. In Nightmare mode, there's always at least 1. Usually there's 2. And now is another opportunity for us to stack nodes. These 2 are pretty far away. Not most ideal, but we can run to one side, right? Popped our 2. We got the little timer going in our head. Doesn't need to be super precise. You can be like, there's like 5-ish seconds of wiggle room, right? There we go. Stacked our hordes together. And basically you just pick a corner. One corner. And if all 4 players sort of stand in the same corner, usually almost all of the zombies will funnel right there, and this will be pretty much empty, so long as 4 players are actually standing in the corner together. You just have the guy in the back watching the flank, and you have 2-3 players looking that way. As you can see, great for everything. Great for Molotovs. If you are low on ammo, I mean, you shouldn't be low on ammo at this point, but like, this is a great place for Molotovs. Potentially, this is potentially, I'm going to say it first before anyone else does, this is potentially a really good map for Molotovs and Highwayman. This is the map for it, right? Because Molotovs need doorways, confined space. You have this area here, and you have the maze. I'm making a Highwayman Molotov deck for this map.
So no one's Heard of this Rogers guy?
Just because if anything goes wrong when you're in the maze, anything bad happens, you can molly the ground, and then when you're in the
Tell us about it.
the normal period of time, right? When you're just progressing normally and you're not in a horde state, you can take point, kill things with your handgun, get more Molotovs, and you're prepared again for the horde. I said it first. Tell your friends. Call your mother.
Mine now.
It was my idea first. This is probably the best map for Highwayman and Pyro and things like that. Because almost the entire, like half of the map, actually more than half of the map. More than half of the map is basically just one long hallway, right? We spend half of the map in here, and then we're gonna spend the other half of the map inside that maze. And now tall boy hordes in the maze would be horrible, but out here there's tons of space to move around and stuff, you know? This is not an issue at all. But there's really just not a lot going on here as far as this first half of the map, because it's just actually really easy, I think. I think this first half of the map is free. Super easy to loot area, with plenty of holdout, like decent enough holdout spots. All this scaffolding, beautiful holdout spots. You stack the nodes, you turn 4, in nightmare mode you'll have, right, in nightmare mode you have 4 nodes. You can turn you can turn the 4 nodes into 2 hordes. With some stacking, not a problem. And you're good to go. This right here is probably where we now encounter some real danger. In nightmare mode, there's going to be birds. Birds there. Birds over there. Sleepers. Right? So this is where if you end up triggering a horde, just keep in mind, right, if you trigger a horde, tell your team, let's fall back. Right, let's fall back to here.
We need some light.
But there's one big problem. All this goop, right, all this mush, if we remember Handyman, is a potential spawn point for common and special zombies. So, we're kind of stuck just a little bit. If a horde is triggered, a lot of the times you'll need to brute force your way through this door, because things will be spawning behind you. And as you can see by these edges, not ideal. This is all technically a corner, but like as you can see, Mom here, zombies will be running through this bush, and it's not the best. Not the best corners here. So if a horde is triggered, brute force it. If you're worried about clearing this space and triggering things and taking too much time here, you can actually just have one player potentially chill up here, just waiting for the all clear, right? The other 2 or 3 players are here, forcing their way through.
Watch out! Pressure!
Nice, good job, team. Beware the birds, pour all that stuff. Typically, here the pathing is really just you hug the left, right? Because when you're down here, you can't jump up really. You need to like do nothing. You literally can't get up. So like this is not an option as far as pathing goes. And if those birds are there, you are forced left. So just get used to going left. Remember the edges of these bushes are just visual. So zombies will run through these bushes, kind of sketchy. Birds can spawn like right here, so be careful about shooting your gun when you're going this path. And then beware the hedges. There can be like 3 or 4 different sleepers here, one here, one here, one here, one all the way down there, and etc. Here you can get a little tiny bit of a view of the maze. I have looked at this many times and then ran the maze and then thought about it. If you guys know any way that we can potentially look at this maze and see key elements that are changed to determine what is the correct path out the gate, let me know in the comments if you're some sort of maze master. I think the speedrunning community, the actual speedrunning community, not those random people in quick play, people who actually speedrun, time themselves, put it on speedrun.com. There is a map layout of all the mazes, I think. And like a statistical correct way to go, like left or right, I can't remember, but I don't know it. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. It's usually not a huge deal. At this point,
I'm not waiting for them.
we're
Hey,
just
need light here.
Finally, some action.
meleeing. In the maze, we obviously want to move with haste, because we have a horde event. But basically, if there's nothing chasing you, there's no reason to go super fast in the maze. Just keep in mind, though, that random zombies and stuff are being spawned, and random mutations. In fact, I can hear something big behind us coming. Like an exploder or something, or a wretch. Now, one thing that I want to point out for this maze, and hopefully we'll see it right here, is with these gates. We're hoping that almost all of the... Whoa, I've never seen them jump over before. Is that most of the things will spawn on the other side of this gate. I've seen like hordes, like entire hordes of zombies get stuck on the other side of this gate because the game spawns them over there. And it doesn't recognize that this is actually not passable space for them. Then that zombie jumped over, and now I question everything about my life. But essentially now we're just keeping our wits about ourselves here. Almost all of the maze paths will take you towards this greenhouse in one way or another. So keep that in mind. So like when we walked out of this gated area, this is almost certainly not the correct path, because we need to head towards the greenhouse now. And this is probably dead end. No, it's hard to tell.
That's it, right?
Some of these hedges you can actually shoot your gun through. So you got a hit marker there. All right. These birds are notorious for getting teams killed. You can walk by these birds. You can't walk by them and shoot your gun. Ollie's broken. Right? Pretty sure you can just walk by them. You don't even need to crouch. But don't shoot your gun. Melee your way through. Brute force it. If you're anywhere around those birds and you shoot your gun, you'll trigger them. But you can actually just walk by them. This is also a common place for there to be birds. And if birds end up like right here, and the hedge path entryway is right here, there's no way around the birds. You have to blow them up or trigger them. But pretty much all the other bird spawns in here are ignorable. Are just ignorable. Keep in mind too that in moments of desperation, there's a lot of dead ends in the maze, because it's a maze, that just run to a dead end, everyone corner up, stagger your reloads. Remember that like if everyone's shooting at the same time, everyone will have to reload at the same time, and then that's how you get killed. So if you got like an LMG player, an AR player, you know, let them shoot. That's what their guns are designed for. That's what their guns do best. Let them shoot, and you watch. And when you hear their cue for reloading, because almost all the characters will...
What the hell?
Watch where you move in the future.
I shot them. We'll usually say something when they need to reload and things like that, right? Or you can just visually see that a teammate's reloading. So when you see the LMG guy reloading, now it's your turn to shoot. Now you get to play, right? So moments like this is where staggering your reloads can be really, really important, because if everyone's reloading at the same time, there's no wiggle room. There's no forgiveness. The zombies will be right on top of you as soon as everyone's reloading. And then hopefully you save your grenades. Which I didn't mention, when you're at the big greenhouse on the scaffolding, save your grenades if you can. Save them, save them, save them. If a tall boy's pushing in on your team on the corner, move to the other corner, keep shooting at it. You can just like work together as a team. One look forward, one look backwards, and you can just brute force your way around the scaffolding and keep dodging the tall boys. Because you really want to just save your grenades for the maze, because if anything goes wrong in the maze, you won't have a whole lot of time to fix that problem. Is it just one bird? No, it's not one bird. Anyways. get in our corner here.
Try and keep up.
As you can see, they're more than happy to crawl underneath the hedges. I've actually never seen them do that before. There's always more to learn, right? And if you get lucky and there's no fire or acid zombies, meleeing is going to be very, very powerful because all of these hedges are just about melee width and length. So you can pretty much stagger an entire horde all by yourself by just good punches. You run forward, you punch, you back up a little bit. When they're done staggering, you move forward, you punch, you back up a little bit. You can actually build up a huge chunk of zombies here. And at the very end of the maze, always right here is that skull. You can hit E and get your achievement or whatever. And beware sleepers. Here, there's pretty much always sleepers. Oh, I forgot to demonstrate. Just notice that you can't blow up both sleepers and the door at the same time. It's just not quite big enough. Maybe you can. Maybe you can.
I've received reports that a large number of
that'll blow up the door.
closing on your location.
Uh-oh. Oh, there's my team. Okay. So I just wanted to say a couple of things here as far as looting this last bit of area. If you can get to this last stretch without a horde chasing you, there's actually quite a bit of copper in this room. Holly just picked it up. In nightmare mode, there'll be like 3 or 4 piles of copper here. The bots just looted all of it right now. But I've always seen 3 or 4 piles in this closet, and then they'll be like on the bed and over here and things like that. So just keep that in mind. All of the previous maps I talked about having 2 toolkits. The only map you really don't need a second toolkit for is Cabins by the Lake. A lot of times because you don't want to do the toolkit for the lake boat. Though potentially you might want the second toolkit for one of the doors at the very end.
Well, that's a fine.
But there is typically a crap ton of money in this house. I think there's, also money on here. And, like, as far as I can tell, the copper spawns are pretty similar in Nightmare as well. Well, you'll get 1 or 2 here.
There.
Maybe 1 or 2 right here. 3 or 4 right there. Maybe on the shelves or here. All copper spawns. Plus the safe, plus the toolkit room.
First aid cabinet.
Crap ton of copper here. So if you are going to have a second toolkit, in Nightmare mode, this door is pretty much always alarmed. And so if you want a second toolkit, you can toolkit this door right here, and then toolkit the toolkit room.
Guess that's mine.
SMG
Alright,
over
let's
here.
get out of here. And that's the maze, right? The maze is just about... I guess I want to recap the summaries here, the principles of it all. Easy first half with all the holdout spots, plenty of loot. Pretty easy to hold out at the scaffolding. Just get to the scaffolding comfortably. Take your time with it a little bit because getting into the scaffolding without anything chasing you is really, really, really convenient. Hold out on the corners of the scaffolding, stack the nodes together. Ideally, you want to be able to save as many supplies as you possibly can for the maze. Try to save all your grenades, try to save your pipe bombs, try to save your Highwayman Molotovs because they're going to be money. Things like that. And then you just move as a team, move as a group. Melee weapons are really nice for the maze, especially since when you're going past those birds, a melee character can actually kill the zombies and not trigger the birds, right? But just hug the right wall. Hug the far wall when you're walking past the birds, things like that. Try not to shoot your guns by the birds. That's what usually triggers them, is not people running by them, it's people shooting their guns by them. Anyways, that's the maze. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns about this map where you struggle if you feel like you can't seem to get to the maze with enough resources and things like that. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the future.